Well, it's getting later in the week. We're almost at semi-final weekend. We're still recovering, of course, from the footy last weekend. Welcome back once again to the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour podcast. I'm Sergio Paradise, and here he is, controversial cartoonist Titus O'Reilly.
Oh, well, it's very good to be back, and of course, I brought along Gillan McLaughlin's au pair, Danny McGinlay.
Oh, it's Danny. Oh, it was our Uber Eats guy.
Look at this, the Variety Hour melts, finally, the melting pot. We're all coming together.
Yeah. We have done it before.
Yeah, we had all four of us once.
Where's Francis is over in...
Is he still overseas?
He says he's in Fremantle, but, we all know what that actually... Rehab is what he's doing.
What's he doing?
Or he's
finally the meth.
Or Putin has got him.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's a way better one.
Because he has done Russia in recent times.
Yeah, we kept trying to get him arrested over there, but it didn't work.
Until now.
Well, you wouldn't think it'd be that hard.
Now, we weren't just drunk all this week because Melbourne won last Friday.
No.
I was recording the audio book, so...
I've kept up the drunkenness for both of us.
Yeah, I was recording an audio book, which is just sitting in a room reading to another bloke who's the same age as me, which is kind of weird, and he kept falling asleep. And by the end you've gone... I've talked for... You do about 7 hours a day, and... I used to love the sound of my own voice, but not anymore.
Do you start to... Oh, I've never done anything like that. But do you start to, lose it a bit by the end of the day? Is there a noticeable difference in your voice?
You start making more mistakes.
I can imagine you would.
So you could... Because if you make a mistake, they just stop it and you go back and redo that sentence and keep going. And apparently, the real pros can do, 14 hours in a row and they won't make many mistakes. You know, everyone makes a few, but so by the end of the day,
who are the real pros in the audiobook world?
I don't know their names. They're just I only know them by their voices. But there are people who
they fly under the radar in that world.
Yeah,
don't
you
they?
wouldn't know them and look at them.
Tell me this:
but superheroes
in a
walk
whole day
us.
reading, how many pages would you cover in a day?
I was doing about 100 a day.
Okay.
So no one should be forced to do that with your writing.
I know. Cool. I'm like, gee, this is terrible book.
Who can read that many pages in a day?
I know. It does make you realise that if that's all you do, you could read a lot of books.
You could.
If you didn't spend all your time on Netflix or watching footy, you could actually really become quite smart. But that's my book. What was it? Elle McPherson that said, "I only read things that I've written." Remember? That's what she said. Yeah, it was Elle McPherson.
Was it Elle?
I thought it was Elle.
It was somebody of that ilk.
Yeah, but I think it was Elle, and it's like...
Yeah, and what have you written, Elle?
Yeah. Shopping list, milk.
Finally, Elle McPherson's been taken down on the Variety Hour. She's had it too good for too long.
Don't say we avoid
have
the big targets.
I've never met her.
I've met her a couple of times.
Of course you have.
Hello.
And I've got to say...
What bar were you at?
Has she been to Sergio's Paradise?
No, she missed out on that one, unfortunately. But she's as good up close as you'd think. Now,
thank God. I was worried about
a lot of supposedly very good-looking people, when you see them up close, they're a little bit disappointing.
I often get that.
Yeah, I know.
Don't be so hard on him.
But, Elle...
I look amazing from really far away.
Google Earth is your best angle.
Google Earth. Cracker. It's been an interesting week. It feels like the whole world's gone mad. Can you remember a time in your life before Serena Williams was the only topic of conversation?
It has blown up, hasn't it? I mean...
Well, I'm trying to really care because it's tennis.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, does anyone actually care about this story? I honestly don't. Well, I mean, the fact that Serena threw a tantrum after she got beaten is nothing new. I mean, it's not new in the world of tennis. She's got great form in being a poor loser. Everyone knows that. You speak to anyone in the tennis world, they'll tell you that. But that again is, in my opinion, is not necessarily such a bad thing because. Compared to how half of our Australians play these days, at least she cares about winning or losing.
And at least she wins.
Yeah, most of the time.
I can see where it kind of got interesting and where there was 1,000 landmines for everyone to stand on was it got, she started to say, it was sexist what the chair was doing. And I think in the context of where earlier in the tournament there was the woman who got fined or got a code violation because she took her top
shirt off,
when blokes don't. There's sort of that environment around it where you can sometimes in these things touch on things that there is an environment where there might be some truth behind parts of it.
Yeah.
But
you can blow it out of all proportion.
But I thought Serena was a bit, like you said, if she had never had problems before, you'd go, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
maybe there's something in what she's saying. And maybe there was, but her reaction still was like...
Oh, exactly.
If she was winning, you can't see her doing that.
No.
Throwing a tantrum when you're winning. That's the new ground.
That's when you can... That's what I like to do. I like to be obnoxious when I win. Yeah. So then when I lose and I'm obnoxious, people go, well, he does it all the time. He's just obnoxious.
So when Maxi Gorn accepts the Premiership Cup, he should throw it down in disgust.
Yeah. That's from the Nick Kyrgios school of being obnoxious... Win or lose.
Yeah, that's so where Serena let herself down was being charming every now and then.
Yeah, being quite... So it was sort of weird that it all blew up, and I thought, we got to about Monday or Tuesday, and I thought, oh, we're done here.
Do we care that much? No.
We've got all the hot takes and opinions you could... there
weren't enough opinion pieces about it, I don't think. Isn't it weird? If you're anti-Serena, you're racist or sexist. If you're pro-Serena, you're supporting bad sportsmanship. I'm sort of afraid to have an opinion, but I figure I'm a white male, so I'm going to go out and say it.
Yeah.
Tennis is shit.
Yeah. Or, you're not allowed to have an opinion.
I know. I'm not...
No one's allowed to have an opinion.
The thing that was funny is you're allowed to have an opinion. It's just...
As long as it's okayed by the right people.
Well, not really. I mean...
No one's... I like your earlier statement. No one's allowed to have an opinion. No matter what you say, you're
allowed to have an opinion. It's just...
Even that opinion, I'm not allowed to have.
Yeah, that's your worst opinion. I'm offended by that opinion. No, but the thing I don't get about this when people... I mean, the Mark Knight cartoon comes along and everyone goes...
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, it's been kept under wraps. The thing I don't get about, and this is wider than the Mark Knight cartoon, just generally, Laurie, people start saying, oh, this is an attempt at censorship. You go, no, it's not. Like, even if, whether you agree that cartoon was racist or not, if you say anything, there's nothing stopping someone then responding. It doesn't mean they're trying to censor you. It's just, if they disagree with you, they disagree with you. Like, when I tweet something out and someone tweets back and says, this is the worst thing you've ever said or something, I don't go, oh, they're trying to censor me. I just think, well, I've had my say, they've had their say. I don't then necessarily go, well, I'm going to get in a tit-for-tat war with them for the next 2 days on Twitter, which is what a lot of people seem to do. Like, I'm quite happy.
Twitter wars are,
but if someone says to me that was a terrible tweet, I don't engage back and try and have the argument out with them because, it's like at a dinner party. How often have you been at a dinner party and two people start having an argument and one of the people goes, you know what? You've raised some excellent points. I've decided to change my opinion on this. It never happens, does it? So, it's a waste of time.
Until who gets the last word. It's as dull as tennis.
It's just a terribly boring rally. So I kind of looked at... But, I mean, the thing with the Mark Knight thing is I look at that and, in Australia, we're a lot more sheltered. If you've travelled in the States, Serge, I know, and, have you travelled in the States, mate?
I've been to a couple.
When you go there... You realise how big the legacy of slavery in African Americans is.
I went to the University of Alabama.
That's right.
Sort of right up close.
What were you doing there? Were you joining a frat? Or?
No, they were setting up one. Actually, the plot of the movie...
A frat. Most of the frats at the University of Alabama, you cannot be invited to pledge the frats. And this is true, unless you were born south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Really? Well, you were born in
Australia.
I
said I was born in Melbourne.
You should have said, I'm more south. I'm more south than all of you. Actually, the movie Old School is based on Serge's...
Oh, is it?
It's roughly based on Serge's time.
I thought it was the Rodney Dangerfield Back to School.
Actually, pretty much all the college movies are roughly based on Serge's time.
See, I got denied from joining a sorority. I was just trying to go in and do some hazing, but no, I was not allowed.
Oh, Animal House is a documentary.
It's a fraternity, isn't it? A sorority is the female one.
Yeah, I was being sleazy.
No, I don't.
Do I have to explain all these?
I was just trying to remember.
I formed a I was in Ann Arbor in Michigan because me and my wife, we travelled through the States. She had a friend at the University of Michigan, and we went there, and I said, I want to see a frat house. And they said, you can't go in unless you're invited. So I just grabbed two random guys who I'd been talking to. I go, we're forming a frat right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we got really drunk.
And the
So
funny
it's like
thing is,
every other frat.
It was awesome.
but all the frat house buildings, they look exactly like you expect them to look and we know that from the movies.
Yeah.
I mean, they look like these old Greek bloody temples almost.
Yeah,
most of
yeah.
them. They
And
do.
apparently it's just slavery. Like, pretty much you join and then everyone treats you like rubbish, and then a year later someone else joins and you can treat them
exactly.
slightly
It's
less
a
like
pyramid
rubbish.
scheme.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
Ponzi.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
But behaviour instead of cash.
Which frat did you join? Ponzi.
Yeah. But the only upside to it is if after you do leave university, if you get arrested for white collar crime, there's always somebody who in your frat who will get you out of jail.
Yeah.
That's handy.
That is very handy.
We should
It's
focus
a bit the old school Thai thing here. It's like if you went to Xavier and then bashed a couple of blokes outside the MCG or something along those lines.
I'm terrified of private school gangs wandering the streets of Melbourne. They never hit.
That 86 tram, you keep away from that.
But the thing about so in Australia, the African American legacy with slavery and racism, you often feel Australians miss the depth of it, like the Eddie Maguire one around King Kong. If that had happened in America, there's no way he'd have a job.
No.
There's just no way. Like, we don't...
I don't know. Matt Lauer did some pretty dodgy things for a long time.
Oh, yeah, but not racism. They'll fire you in 2 seconds over there. It's like, why...
If you're just getting your pants off, that doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. That's just against women.
That worked for decades.
But the thing about... So over here, it's like... But the thing I found really interesting is... So Mark Knight drew that cartoon, right? No one can... Everyone can guess, but no one can know unless he says that he had no intention of it being racist whatsoever, right? So people are either going to believe that or not. The thing about it is... When it was pointed out to him, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say it was all inadvertent, like he really was just having a go at her for having a tantrum. So let's say we all agree with that. When it's pointed out to him by a lot of people, scholars, all sorts of things, that the style of drawing he's done of her reflects the Sambo style of mocking and African Americans that goes back years and is tied to slavery and is seen as incredibly racist. Don't you then at that point go, oh, see your point, I was ignorant of that, but that wasn't my intention, but I apologise, and everyone moves on with their life. But instead they've gone, no, it's not. They've just gone, no, it's not. Like you can just magically make the world the way you would like it to be by just denying the fact, you know? Like, that's where even if you completely agree that he had no intention of doing what he's been accused of, he could have just said, yeah, I can see how that could be construed that way and I should have been more thoughtful. I apologise.
Yeah.
Everyone moves on. Like, everyone would have moved on. But the Herald Sun have gone, that front cover the next day, you're sitting there going, oh, geez. Like, this is the group that says everyone's too sensitive all the time. Yeah. But that's the funniest thing to me, is this is the group that's always saying everyone's too sensitive. And you're going, well, hang on, someone just pointed out one point to you and you've gone nuclear like in seconds.
Well, everyone is too sensitive, and the front page of the Herald Sun today is about that. There's a 9-year-old girl in Brisbane who didn't stand for the national anthem, and she should be shot.
I know, and like, to me, the proudest thing about being Australian, I used to think, and it seems to be weirdly changing, is you didn't care about the national anthem, quite possibly didn't like it, thought it was a crap song, and no one ever sung the words. We all embarrassedly look at each other and when
stand up or do it, you tell authority to get stuff.
And Australia Day was the day spent doing nothing.
And these are the people that will then turn around and go, oh, we're killing all the larrikins and characters. And you go, well, you just attacked a 9-year-old girl for not standing during where was it? A school in...
It was in Brisbane somewhere.
Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? It's not like it's the Prime Minister or something.
Exactly. I mean, for she's obviously a smart little kid. She may well be a pain in the ass. Who knows?
Yeah.
But who cares that she
smart people are.
Yeah, who cares that she didn't stand for the national anthem? The only thing about Mark Knight is, I agree with you, he could have, decelerated a lot of the drama if he'd handled it that way. I think if Serena Williams had come out and said, look, this really annoyed me for this reason, he then would have had to address it. But I think the reason why, and I quite sort of understand his reasoning as to why he got his back up, is like, well, I've got 100,000 suburbanites in Australia telling me I'm a racist.
Yeah, but I think that was like, where I think it crossed over from being, you know, and like we all do comedy, and so we all know, like, you know, there's lines that you go right up to, and you know, and all that sort of stuff. So I get the job he's got and the position he's in, and he's free to say this stuff. Like, this is the other thing, right? It's not to me, it's not a freedom of speech issue. He's a highly paid guy. He's still got a job there, and so I'm like, he's not in jail. He's not in jail. He hasn't been silenced. He's free to say it. Just doesn't like the reaction. But where I was reading a lot of Twitter reaction, right? So yes, there's always going to be the people that go, "This is racist," right? And so you go, okay, well, like maybe that's true, maybe that's not. Whatever. People throw that around a lot. They throw a lot of things around. Where it got interesting to me is when I started to read a few of the thought pieces coming out of America that were by historians that very clearly showed why it was and explained it in great detail. And they were rational, coherent pieces. They weren't like, this guy should be shot and, you know, and fired. And they were just saying,
very limited use of caps lock.
Here is why. Yeah, that's right. Here is why this is links to that historical thing, right?
I agree. I think
that's where I think and then I think, well, I am surprised if Mark is honestly saying he's a cartoonist, right? Art is sort of that he had no way of knowing. Like, that is where I do find it a little, you know, that. But look, you can only accept him on what he says, but I still think that once you point, like if I use a word, so if I
which word? Say it. Which word are you talking about?
Well, we're talking about Josh Caddy, right? We're going to talk about him in a sec. He called someone, or twice, he called people spastic. Mm-hmm. Now, I could understand someone maybe didn't realise that was a term that was offensive, right? Someone maybe just
because Josh Caddy is from the 1980s.
Yeah, but you know, like if someone said to me, I used it, and I did use it in insult, but I didn't realise how I was like someone pointed out how offensive it is, and now that I realise that, I feel really bad. And I shouldn't have said it, then you go, yeah, fair enough.
Like Carl Stefanovic, when he used tranny last year, he made a proper apology the next day. And
because there are things where terms change rapidly.
That's
I mean,
right.
spastic's not a great example, and, you know... but
neither is tranny either, to be honest.
No, but there are terms
I thought, just before we let Mark Knight go, I thought one of the things that was really interesting about it was what you just brought up.
Yeah.
The fact that Americans actually got involved in something
Washington Post,
as far away as a Melbourne newspaper. That in itself should have been enough to ring a few bells, as you say, the historians and intellectuals bring in. It wasn't just the usual renter crowd of you know, people being offended. That in itself made it a bit more interesting to me.
Well, and that's where I think, like, look, I get there's the hue and cry, and you can be drawn and quartered, and sometimes it can be of saying something not particularly that offensive sometimes, or people just blow it way out of proportion. But on this, I thought there was a window there where he could have possibly calmed it, and instead him and Harold Sun went, we're not only just going to ignore it, we're going to double down and attack everyone who's pointing this out.
I've got a theory on that. I was talking to someone high up at News about a month ago, and he revealed that Uncle Rupert was coming to town to do a sort of his yearly check-in with everyone. And I said, "Oh, is that really stressful? Do you have to, like, you know, make everything, you know, really neat and tidy and everything?" He goes, No, this is fine. But next week we're going to get really angry emails and tell us that we need to stir the pot a lot more."
Right.
And that is and like 2 weeks after that, Mark Knight's other racist cartoon about the African gangs in the train station.
Yeah, that got a lot of...
And then, so this is all Uncle Rupert's doing.
See, this is Mark Knight's other problem, even if it's not related to him, is News have an agenda and have lurched to the right on a lot of things globally. So he's caught up in, even if he was completely innocent, he's caught up in things that it doesn't look good, you know, like, and people start to add those things together. I think the problem too is it doesn't take away from that Serena did just have an absolute meltdown, and if he'd just drawn that cartoon and didn't have the Sambo features, no one would have batted an eyelid.
Yeah.
Like, no one would even be talking about it, you know? Like, that's sort of his problem there, where he decided to draw it a certain way, and his best claim is he was ignorant,
Because cartoonists don't know much about the history of art.
Well, that's what I find a bit amazing, but it didn't add anything to his cartoon, so I don't know why he felt the need to. And then why he drew the other woman as a white blonde.
That's a bit that puzzled me.
Well, this is where a lot of people said, well, come on, how, she's a sort of a dark-skinned Asian woman. Yeah, so
which is an unusual combination.
Yeah, and he drew as a white blonde, so you kind of go. So maybe he's just really bad at drawing. That could have been his thing. You could have said, "Oh, well, look how badly I drew the other one."
So what would be the end game? Like if Herald's son, didn't back Mark Knight and sacked him from it, who would you get to draw the premiership poster? Tanberg?
Well, they draw. Well,
Kaz Cook?
Well, Matt Cerrone wrote in, was Mark Knight's Serena comic really more offensive than his Hawthorn 3-peat poster? Which I did find incredibly insulting.
It was, appalling. Although I didn't... Someone only pointed out yesterday that the Mark Knight did the AFLW Premiers poster, and it's a crow with boobs. And you know how he's got that little pig? Do you know what it says in that one?
No.
They're the pros of South Australia.
Well...
How did that... I only found that yesterday.
I didn't notice that. I didn't know that.
Now, we had another story that you liked a lot, moving on from we almost got through the racism, sexist bit at the start without... We'll get a few letters. Hopefully we'll get a few drawings. if you're upset by anything we said, draw us a cartoon. Sergio, look, this story you just pointed out to me during the week, which I did laugh.
The footy fugitive captured. This was the headline. Now, there's a bloke... This is, I think, a genuinely Australian story, this. There's a bloke... he's a local. His name is Jarrah Maximo. And he's a millennial because he spelt not only his Christian name, but also his surname with excess consonants.
Right.
What's the spelling? You're blaming that on millennials. He that would be his parents.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So how do you spell it?
You spelt Jarrah, Jarrah.
Isn't that normal?
At the best of times.
How else do you spell Jarrah?
Jarrah?
Yeah.
No, you probably could, but sometimes they'd add an extra A or an extra H just
throw a Y in there is always the good one to do.
Maksymow. Not that matters how he spelt his surname. It's an interesting name. He was on charges of assault, break and entry, and a few drug charges.
Yeah.
Now, the cops knew where he was.
I like that, and a few drug charges.
Yeah.
That's like
they haven't spelled out exactly what they were. But the cops knew where he was. But they said to him, look, mate, we're going to have to take you in, but we know you're playing in a big semi-final this Saturday.
Right.
Here's the deal. We'll let you play in the game, and we'll pick you up after the game. You can have your shower, put your jeans back on. Now, this in itself is really Australian.
Is this how crime works? Like the police ring you up and go, look, we're going to arrest you, but we know you got this big...
We were talking about the deep south of America 10 minutes ago. I don't reckon that's how it would work over there.
No.
We've released the hounds. Yeah. You can do a deal like, I know you're going to arrest me, but in a couple of years from now, I'm having a wedding, so if you could just arrest me after that... I've got a big 21st.
I've got a big presentation up to the board tomorrow.
So the cops said...
I've got a crime to commit. I've got to rob a bank.
I've got to knock off a petrol station.
Here's the quote. The police had agreed to allow him to play for Henty in the semi-final in the Brock Barnum's against the Brock Barnum Saints in the Hume League.
Right, the Hume, okay.
The Hume League.
So we're in Victoria.
And they said, for operational purposes, they allowed him to play in the match and agreed to pick him up afterwards. And apparently he'd been BOG up until half-time, at which point he did a runner. He's just taken off.
Not the runner.
No.
A runner. Well, he just took off.
So old Jarrah, he's just taken off at half-time.
He sort of went off. And were the police there? Because you know what I'm picturing in my head?
Yeah.
That scene from the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Where the Blues Brothers are playing on stage and the cops are everywhere. Yeah. And then they go in the trapdoor and escape through the sewers. Is that sort of
I reckon that's
was there cops all around the ground?
He probably went into the rooms and then out the toilet window or something out the back, where he had a mate waiting in a ute.
So were the cops there, though?
Yeah, there were cops there waiting to arrest him after the game.
It was hard to tell which one he was. They were all wearing the same clothes.
Yeah.
Isn't this a great use of police resources when they're always saying we're stretched incredibly thin, that a couple of them are like stationed at a footy game just to watch the game because then they could arrest him at the
They
start.
can't arrest anybody when there's 200 of them watching them riot, and then they couldn't arrest one bloke who's playing footy.
So
He's
he was
done
best on ground, and then
apparently that's what they're saying. He was an absolute gun, which is why the cops let him play. But he took off at half time. But they got him the next day at a house in Healesville.
Who won the game?
I think.
Was it a hard
How is
tag
that
they
not?
put on him?
You're burying the lead. I want to know if that's a great story from the Saints' point
He
of
was
view.
arrested on the Monday at a house in Wodonga.
I was saying, he got away a bit.
He'd taken off a fair way.
Jeez.
So this is such a great Australian story that not only had he done a deal with the cops, but then he'd reneged on it and taken off at half time. And then, of course, the coach of the team's going, geez, where's Jarrah? Where's Jarrah? Now I've got to put somebody in the midfield. I'm down a rotation, for the whole second half.
He literally went missing.
At half time.
He haven't had a kick. Where have you been? Oh, that is a
He's had a mate
classic.
join in Wodonga.
So do you think that he's ruined it for all the other criminals that would normally be allowed to finish playing the game before the cops arrest them?
Now,
That's basically it.
How relieved would you be if you were due to play on him in the second half? He's had 40 touches. Like, oh, God,
Well
this
done
guy's
on keeping him quiet.
so good on you, Jared. I'm going to keep a close eye on what happens when Jared now fronts up for court.
Yeah, that's
How
going to
they
be
handle
good.
that one.
If they let him go to court, he might have another game. Speaking of criminals, Toby Green.
There you go.
Good link.
Yeah, thank you.
I was waiting for that.
Toby Green this week, they looked at his kick and they kept calling it his marking style.
Yeah. His
And-
marking technique, I heard somebody describe it as.
Yeah, now it's been ruled that it should have been a free kick. What he is doing is illegal, and it should have been a free kick on the game, but it's not a penalty or a fine by the match review. Do you reckon that's fair? Like, I'm not totally against that. Like, I think if they started rewarding a free kicker against that every time, where he sticks his foot out
Yeah,
that
they'll stop doing
far,
it. Yeah.
and it's not like he's leaping in the air to get the ball as much. You know, he's very
Yeah, he's softened in his old age.
He's very clearly trying to
See,
kick
after
a
the
guy
game,
away.
a lot of ex-players and so-called experts are saying, yeah, look, but he can't be penalised or pinged for that because there's nothing in the rules that says you can't do that. Which is not strictly true, because if you look in the rules...
Yeah, there's quite a lot of...
There's a fair bit about using your foot against an opponent. It doesn't necessarily say you cannot stick your foot out at a 45-degree angle while marking and hit an opponent in the face or the midriff.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It's not that specific, but it does say you cannot, use your foot and kick an opponent.
What's the ruling on
during play?
What's the ruling on having a stapler in your undies and you pull them out and you staple just to your opponent's forehead? Is that specifically in the rules?
It's not specifically in the rules.
Well
so I think
then, you know what to do, Giants.
Imagine, this is my thing about just...
See, this was Jarrah's problem up at the Hume.
He forgot his stapler.
See, this is my theory with a lot of things. Like, there should always be it was just stupid rule, because there are things that happen in sport that no matter what, you could never guess that they were going to happen. Like the John Hopewati incident.
Yeah.
You're never going to...
You don't need a specific rule.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
forbidding you from
and you can't,
jagging your finger
That's
up.
right, and you can't blame the NRL for not having a rule for that, because they kind of will go, well, I didn't think a guy would do that, you know?
Exactly.
Like, it was like the Todd Carney bubbler when they moved him on for that. It's not like,
Or
who's
the
thinking,
bloke with the
we
dog.
better have a rule in case this guy does this.
And we better have another rule about, animals and
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about the Todd Carney bubbler, the thing that worried me most about that is it had a name, bubbler.
Yeah.
Something that's just happened once.
I was about to say, it obviously had been done by a number of blokes before, one of whom had come up with a catchy title.
Oh, and that there was also probably in a different state, it had a different nickname. It's like potato cake, potato scallop.
Do people get
In South
arguments?
Australia,
It's not a bubbler, what are you talking
it's
about?
completely different in South Australia.
It's called an Angolan elbow.
Just imagine a big argument over it. Oh, man.
Hey, Steve, what do you call it when you pee in your mouth?
Yeah, while a friend takes a photo.
Well, it's a bubbler. Oh, what?
Not in my day, was it?
It's like when the hardest thing of going interstate is ordering a beer and not knowing there's ponies and minis and schooners and pots.
Yeah.
So, mate, we don't have pots. We've only got bubblers. I'm okay. I'm okay. So just so we know, the rules are hands in the back in a marking contest, not allowed. Foot in the neck, allowed.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So surely, as you say, just on the Toby Green, pay one free kick against him, end of problem.
Yeah, the
I don't
dangerous
really
bit
do it
is
next week.
sticking your studs up like that. Now, I know in a marking contest people leap all over each other and stuff, so there is but I think what he was doing was...
You don't see many marks of the year where the guys have leapt that high and tried to put their, the stops
Because they're not multitasking.
into a bloke's face at the same time. It's just, if you're up that high, that's part of
All I
the
can
danger.
say is I have enormous faith in the AFL figuring out a way to bring in a rule that will really make this simple and easy and not overcomplicate things.
When they talk about you've got to protect the marking area, it always reminds me of US gun laws. Like, you have a right to protect your homestead.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you can mark like that in an open carry part of the ground.
That's right. Like, there's certain things that...
Having said that, we do hope Toby does this week use it against Collingwood at every opportunity.
You too hope that. By the way, it was so much fun watching Melbourne win, and congratulations, guys. I'm totally on the Demons now. I'm all about the fairy tale trilogy. That's what I want.
So
Fairy tale trilogy.
Bulldogs, and
Tigers, Demons. I mean, obviously, Bulldogs is the Star Wars of it. Tigers is the Ocean's 12. But you guys could really bring it back with a pretty good third one, like Back to the Future 3. It would be. I'm all about it. But what I really loved is how nervous you all were on Friday night. And are you guys sure you've won? Are you relaxed yet? Are you comfortable?
I'll tell you what, being there, when Jones kicked that goal early in the last quarter, because I was sitting there, and the guys I was with are going, we're not far enough in front. Not at all.
You could still lose this.
You usually lose it from here. And then Jones kicked us, it should be pretty right. And then Hannon's goal. It was only when Hannon kicked the goal I thought, they're not going to blow it from here. But even then, you could still... My son spoke to me at one stage, he said, is it technically feasible for them to kick 5 goals in 2 minutes? Not really, but I guess if they got the clearance straight out of the centre, it could be done.
I can get over, like, I'm watching the replay, like, I'll probably only watch replay, like, maybe 30 times or something. Geelong just under pressure, both executed actually quite poorly the whole night, and that's why the pressure became important, because it was basically whoever put the more pressure on, because neither could execute.
Yeah.
And but Dangerfield was terrible, and Ablett, like, they just kept turning the ball over. Selwood lost it.
Yeah, Selwood lost it.
I was really surprised that. And this isn't just, me rubbing salt into the wound. I was actually genuinely surprised by it. I thought they would be much more of a challenge, It was amazing how much no one really stood up for Geelong on the night.
They were very, very ordinary Geelong. But then again, as I've said before too, I really feel uncomfortable Melbourne being favourites. I was uncomfortable last week. And this week it's getting...
I'm so with you on this.
To the degree that even today I saw that Hawthorn were at $2.75 for this game. I thought, hang on, this is just getting out of hand.
Yeah, this is getting ridiculous.
What are you guys on?
$1.20 or something.
Oh, you're the favourite? You really?
Yeah.
Just
and all this week people get banged off about it. And I'm like, we got smashed by Hawthorn last time. Now I know lots changed, but at the same time,
it's a 2-horse race, and Hawthorn, they're not a bad side. It's certainly.
Did you hear Clarkson after the game?
After the Melbourne game?
Yeah, you've got to call him genius.
No, not after the Melbourne game. After the Richmond game. They're saying, something about, do you think you would have made different coaching changes and all this? And he said to me, look, the changes you make on the day, he goes, I read all the stuff about, I was meant to make all these tactical genius things your way. He goes, look, to be honest, you guys are all a bunch of sheep. No offence.
Did he say that?
What
a genius.
Apologise to the sheep. But what he said that was quite interesting is he said, look, the teams that win are system-based teams that the players have committed and played to that system the whole time. And the moves you make on the day, he said, are like, occasionally someone will do something that will be like move someone onto someone, and that will be some 99% of the time. It's just the players are so well drilled and their system, the way they play is so drilled into them that they maintain that for the whole 4 quarters, and that's what wins you premierships.
That's interesting.
That's his view, not like.
No,
and
I thought Paul
he'd know.
Roos at a function a couple of years ago say much the same thing. He said there is too much emphasis put on game day coaching and what the coach can do on the day. He said it's what you do beforehand. He said what can happen on a day is if a player is getting badly beaten by his opponent or something, you might move him over. If you're playing Geelong and if Tom Hawkins kicks 4 goals in the first 15 minutes, you might make a move.
Yeah, you might swing someone else on him.
Generally speaking, all the planning and everything's done in advance, and there's not a hell of a lot more you can do on the day.
This is what I love. They keep saying what team's brand is.
Yeah.
Which is the worst thing that they
what's
all
our
do.
brand?
But, I mean, one style is a better word.
Oh, yeah.
It's a way, it's like another of these occasions where we had a word for it.
Yeah, you've added
and then made another one that's not all.
Be thankful it's still a 1-syllable word. Normally they add syllables just to the.
But really, like, what's the brand? The brand's like the system. It's the way you played. Yeah,
and it comes down to your execution of it. If you play well, that's your brand. And you can play like crap. Oh, but we didn't bring our brand today. No, you
don't have a brand.
You haven't got a brand. There's no brand. You played like shit.
Well, guys, you should just anyway go. I know we're going to preview, but just remember, as Demons fans, everything is hinging on what you two do over the next 48 hours.
It's all
up to us.
It's all karma. So just telling you, I like a flat white, 1 sugar.
I'm going to drink the whole time. Just on Toby Green before we move off, Grant Siemens wrote in, if there is a contentious issue in the AFL, such as Green's kicking, should we all wait to hear what Kane Corns thinks and just go with the opposite?
Is Kane Corns the Craig Foster of AFL? Like, Craig Foster is a unifying thing in the round ball game. That you just disagree with him.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not sure if we have an AFL one yet.
I think Corns is working into that. Like, Corns always takes the alternate view.
And he's just made a name for himself this year. He's just like come out of nowhere.
It was a little bit last year, and then this year
a little bit last year. But it's like he's made a conscious decision to make a name for himself as the
devil's advocate.
Yeah, the devil's advocate, the antithesis to everything else that's going on. And Beers, it's like a shock jock type of thing.
Well, he said about Green, he goes, everyone's getting
on a limb just because I know it will get a reaction.
Yeah, he said about Green, he goes, everyone's just getting over. And I'm like, pretty much everyone thinks that what he did is just kicking someone.
Yeah.
Like, even if you were like, I wasn't like, he needs to be suspended for 6 weeks. I was like, it should have been a free kick. I actually think the outcome the AFL came up with is plausible. It was a right approach, right? Just don't fine him or anything. Just it should be a free kick. But he, just it's that thing where. But there's no worse copy or media bit than to have a really reasonable view.
To
go, well, it probably wasn't a good look, but it should have been a free kick anyway. Let's move on. Someone goes, we could have talked for half an hour about that topic.
It's like Sydney shock jocks. If they were all reasonable and sensible and want to hear both sides of the story, nobody would listen, nobody would bother.
My favourite would be, like, we were talking about the girl that didn't stand up during the anthem.
The anthem.
Oh, you mean the un-Australian?
The traitor, the ISIS member, I think. If someone said to you, like, someone brought that up, and you went,
ISIS member.
Yeah, I saw it.
She's really got an ISIS flag at home. It's the only explanation.
I saw her beheading a few of her brother's G.I. Joe toys.
But the thing about it is, if someone said,
and her old man's got a beard.
There you go. Says the guy who's got a beard at the moment. If someone said to you, this girl didn't stand up during the thing, and let's say you were someone that was like didn't like that, but you went, I'm not really fond of it, but anyway, it's not a big deal. Yeah. Like, because that's the reaction any normal person would have to that story. Yeah, they would either be good on her or I don't think she should have done that. But the next phrase out of most people's mouths is, what's the big deal, though? Yeah. It's like one 9-year-old kid.
Okay?
Yeah, there's 24 million people in Australia. We can handle one 9-year-old not standing during the national anthem. It's not going to materially affect our lives.
Do you know what's the best version of the Australian national anthem I've heard? Because they always play the same one at every sporting event and school assembly. And this is genuine. This will sound like a joke. Genuinely, the Wiggles cover of it is really good. It's really upbeat, and they do both verses. The second verse is a cracker. Yeah.
I didn't know the Wiggles had done it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seriously, people, have a look at the Wiggles doing.
Was this before or after the purple and yellow Wiggle got divorced?
Broke up. Oh no, this is old Wiggles. So this is Greg and.
This is old school.
This is old school Wiggles
right?
With Jeff.
Jeff and Murray.
Skeletor playing the guitar.
Meatloaf does Meatloaf does a fairly good version, I've heard. But see, I don't even like. This is going massively off topic, but I don't even like the Australian national.
No, it should be Waltzing Matilda. It should be a nice little
about thieving sheep.
What was he going to do with the sheep? That's what we never got to the bottom of.
Why can't we be the first country to just pick something like AC/DC Thunderstruck. Imagine how fun Thunderstruck between every year. There's I'd be quite happy with AC/DC.
Even Hell's Bells gets the hair in the back of your neck standing up before a game.
We could do the if you want to get rid of controversy, go what the Spanish did and just have an instrumental, and then you could just
there you go.
Then you just
make up lyrics.
Absolutely.
I just think.
But would you trust the Australian public to make up lyrics?
Oh, that's true. It would become like, am I ever going to see your face again?
Exactly. There's your national anthem right there.
Anyway, it is fun being a shock jock. You've got to say something controversial. You can't just say, the best would be just imagine they gave us a show on like the morning program on SEN, something people ring in upset and we go, I don't really care that much about this issue.
Mate.
That's like our response. To be honest, I'm finding it hard to really give a about this.
Get over it.
Yeah. Let's move on. Whatever.
Yeah.
Are there any left-wing shock cooks? Is there anyone from like the hardcore, that's offensive, why aren't you employing that?
Yeah, that'd be fun too. Let's get the whole
2GB, get
You think the left aren't angry enough? Aren't angry because they're all on drugs. That's why they're all smoking the dope. The
left seem to do it in print form, whereas the right will do it in audio.
Yeah, they're writers.
That's true.
Why don't we? Come on, let's get a left-wing shock. I'll do it.
Yeah, you do it.
I need someone smarter than me to write what to say. I'll do it. I'll be your puppet.
No one has ever been worried about that before in the history of journalism. I need something smart to say. Josh Caddy, we touched on briefly. He called Hawthorn's James Frawley and Daniel Howe. He used the word spastic towards them during the Thursday night opening. He actually did. I thought it was a terrible apology, and here's why. He accepted full responsibility and didn't make any excuses.
Whoa, he won't last.
And he
sounded genuinely contrite.
He sounded genuinely sort of reasonable about it. And as you said before, I heard Josh Caddy's apology, and it was kind of. It was a good apology because it took the sting out of the whole thing.
But also, he actually apologised. Like, he didn't say...
If anyone was offended.
Yeah, and remember when Eddie did the Caroline Wilson one? Yeah. Eddie said, I'm very sorry that my comments have resonated that way. Yeah. Instantly, that apology of, it's the people hearing it, not what I said.
Yeah, I'm sorry you were offended.
I'm sorry you're a moron. I reckon if you're going to go that apology, just double down on it. Don't do that. I'm sorry if you were offended. Go, I'm sorry you're a moron.
I'm sorry. Sorry I ever met you and then run away.
See, you're all ready to be a shock jock right away.
Do we know? Now, the reason allegedly he used that term was because they were staging for free kicks. Now,
he accused them of that too.
Was that because they weren't as good at it as Rance? Was he genuinely saying you're an amateur? You were like...
Rance would really throw himself.
Yeah. But there's now been a lot of talk of should the umpires' mics be broadcast? And I say 100% they should be, but in order to stop people getting offended, have the mics turned up full, you can hear every word, but it's on late at night, it's rated R, you must be over 18 to watch it. I would love that.
AFL Blue.
Yes, AFL Up Late.
AFL Up Late.
Sam Frost having a go at Selwood. Did you hear that?
He was swearing like nothing else.
Frosty.
He's calling him all names under the sun.
He's giving him the see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. It was amazing. Josh Caddy, of course. My favourite Josh Caddy, this isn't even in the top Josh Caddy story, was, of course, when he was at Geelong with Billy Smets. When I think it might have been his first year in the league, first or second year in the league, they decided to welcome a new teammate. Thought it would be very funny to welcome him by breaking into his house, both wearing balaclavas to scare him.
That was Josh Caddy, wasn't it?
Josh Caddy.
Yeah.
Only problem was they got the wrong house, and the woman called the cops, and they realised halfway through that they were actually breaking into a house with balaclavas on. So they fled, only for the woman to get their number plate and the cops to pull them over at gunpoint and arrest them. So this isn't. This is, you know, this is.
He's got form in the dumb criminals.
Yeah, you see, you wait till halftime of a semi-final and then you run.
How fun is that? Let's break into someone's house. Like,
that's the funniest bit. Is like, you know, how to welcome the new player.
Yeah, let's terrify him.
Yeah.
The other bit I like about that too is that the thing that stops most blokes from doing horrible things or terrible things or stupid things is our inherent laziness.
Yeah.
So most blokes I know...
It's not the ability to look ahead and picture the consequences of your actions.
That's right. So most guys I know, someone would have said, you know what we should do? That new bloke, we should grab some balaclavas and pretend to break into his house. And everyone go, oh, that's hilarious. And then someone goes, well, we'll have to go buy balaclavas. And that's where everyone goes, yeah. Or we could just play PlayStation for the rest of the day. And everyone goes, yeah, that's much better.
Can you imagine
that's what stops 90% of crimes.
if they had pulled it off and it had worked? Can you imagine them reminiscing about it? Just go, remember that? Remember how scared you were when we broke into your house with balaclavas and held you at knife point? What a wuss!
Yeah.
And the guy sort of like got post-traumatic stress disorder and can't sleep in that house anymore. Oh, but it's a great prank, guys.
But what if say Billy Smets had a gun and shot his two teammates?
Oh, wasn't it?
There's your
Billy
story.
was one of the people breaking
Billy
in. But yeah, that's
him and
right.
Josh Caddy,
That's right. Or the cops had to shot one of them or
Yeah.
something. Like any story that ends with, and then we got arrested by the cops at gunpoint.
At gunpoint.
Is where you've probably gone, no,
You probably
with the
pushed it a
benefit of
little too far.
hindsight. Carlton have re-signed Dale Thomas. Is this the best sign we've had so far that they might be able to keep their wooden spoon winning squad together?
Because no side that has ever won the wooden spoon has played together the next year.
No, that's right.
That's a very tragic
It's very hard
stat.
to keep them
I
together.
think,
Everyone wants them. The thing about it is, he's probably playing well enough
To earn another
to
year.
be in this current. Well, not in any other AFL team.
7AFL did tweet that he's had his best year since 2015 this year.
Yeah.
Most possessions per game. But I say
But
good
that's
on him.
because they played him down back. If they could play you down back in Carlton, and you'd average more than 20 possessions. Because
Titus, we're not allowed to talk about my new contract.
imagine
Da,
Carlton
da,
have accidentally
da, da.
signed.
But a bloke like Dale Thomas, who is a naturally talented footballer,
Yeah.
you stick him down back where it's easy to get a kick anyway. And
especially when it's
playing, as
coming
you say,
down
playing
that
for
far.
Carlton.
Yeah.
It's coming down every 30 seconds anyway.
Oh, the
Yeah.
cynicism from you too.
You're going to pick up your 25 touches.
This is just...
Good luck to him.
Mate, I say good on you, Dale Thomas. You know, he's 34, is that right? Or something like that? He's
43?
43. He is just... He can smell the winds of change, and he knows that premiership is so close
Yeah, it's
that he's
so
going
close.
round again. Good on you, Dale.
And his missus wants that another $500,000 bucks this year.
That's the real
I
thing.
think that's the real
So
deal.
just Carlton's 3/4.
Yeah, we overpaid for that.
Well, that's what I was reading about. The Gold Coast Suns apparently have massive salary cap issues.
Yeah.
And you're like, how's that even possible?
Yeah.
But they've got huge
They've all
salary
been
cap issues.
paying those blokes so much.
Are the drugs paid through... Is that part of the cap? Normally you do that under the table.
Oh, this story, you'll like this. This is 100% true. So I'm on stage in Adelaide last week for the tour, and there's a guy in the front row. There's two, a man and a woman in the front row, and they're both...
Yeah, you sold 2 tickets.
I sold 2 tickets.
Done,
It's
Titus.
amazing. Yeah, it's great. And it's great to see Mum and Dad. Anyway, so there's this... So
And he made them drive from Melbourne.
and wear Giants gear. So anyway, there's this couple in the front there in Giants gear. And so I've done the bit at the start, mate, who's Crow supporters, who's, Pale
Adelaide.
supporters, everything. And there's, in Adelaide, there's quite a lot of, Carlton supporters because they used to have zone there and quite a few famous South Australians
You get
obviously
people
played
like
there.
Limo who just stuck with their Victorians.
Yeah, that's right. So you got a mixture of everything. So we're going through all that. And then I see the couple, I say, GWS supporters. I said, what part of the AFL do you work in, ladies and gentlemen? And then I said, how come you GWS supporters? Are you from Sydney. And I can't remember what they said, but I think they were from Sydney originally. And I said, oh, right, what made you Giant supporters, not Swan supporters? And the guy goes, no word of a lie, this wasn't him making a joke. Oh, I was a big Israel Folau fan. And when he joined the Giants, I decided that was my team. And I was like,
wow.
So you're the guy they spent $3 million.
I was about to say.
You're proof that marketing strategy brought one person.
How much
And he goes, yeah, that's why I back for the Giants, because of Israel Folau. And I'm like, they spent the AFL spent $3 million to just get you
to sell a single Giants jumper to this bloke.
And I go, did you realise how much money they spent? And he was like, yeah.
Is he still a big Israel Folau fan? Did you ask that?
No, I didn't ask that.
Was he offended by some of the more homosexual elements of your
Was it his rampant homophobia that attracted you to them? But anyway, I'm like, so I rang someone I know at the AFL and said, I've got some good news for you guys. I have final proof that your marketing strategy did at least bring one person into the fold. Sure. That would have to be the only one.
Yeah, sure.
There wouldn't be many.
If you are a Giants fan, please let us know why.
Yeah, I'd love to know any Giants fans that, if there are any other out there, that in all seriousness, the only reason they joined was because Israel Folau joined. Like I have
one mate who's a Giants fan, and he goes for them because he wasn't really into the Swans, and he's from Western Sydney.
Yeah,
all right, I'll go for the Giants.
But they're not.
And you could ask the same question about Carmichael Hunt.
I was about to say, I'd love to know if anyone actually Carmichael Hunt got it, because I was surprised to meet the one guy. So if there's others out there that's what brought them in,
and if there's any Lions fans who are that because of that bloke from The Recruit.
That's been a huge success.
What was his name? He'll forever be known.
Matt Eagles.
Yeah, he could play 300 games and he'll still be known as that bloke from The Recruit.
Oh, yeah,
is he still? He played a couple of games this year.
Yeah, and then got injured. I think he missed the rest of the season.
Because I made a joke saying, I didn't realise things were that bad at Brisbane when he got named. And all these people got stuck into me. And I was like, whoa, I didn't realise Matt Eagles had an online posse that was riding shotgun for him. Trade news that's sort of swirling around at the moment. Luke Parker looks like he's going to stay in Sydney, but Hanbury wants to go to the Saints.
Which is just baffling.
He wants to come home, and they're willing to offer him a bit of money. I'd be surprised, the Swans seem to be willing to let him go.
And Gary Rowan as well.
And Gary Rowan too. Do they know... Gary Rowan, there's talk of him going to Geelong.
Yeah.
That's just what Geelong need, another player that's not... hard defensively.
Yeah.
Do you think... the worry about Hanbury is he's past it, like his body's...
Well, that's right. He's been struggling the last year or two, and you've got to... And you can't blame Hanbury for wanting to come home with the sort of deal that Sydney are throwing at him. $800 a year for 5 years.
Yeah, he's going to take it
every
time.
$4 million. You take it every day of the week.
Do you think this is the Saints realising, with Rewalt gone and Montagna and stuff, they just don't have veterans around the club that...
Yeah, I would say that.
There's a fair bit of that. A bit
of the Jordan Lewis to Melbourne sort of move in it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a bit of that, except the Jordan Lewis to Melbourne. Jordan Lewis was coming in with Melbourne having a heap of young, talented players. That's what St Kilda don't have. Their list is so ordinary.
And Lewis was arguably one of the best on the ground on the weekend, on Friday.
Yeah,
he's terrific.
But he's had his ordinary moments this year, but these last couple of games when they've really needed a bit of experience.
I think he's been worth his weight in gold. I just don't think,
my favourite thing about Jordan Lewis is when he was at Hawthorn, he used to live in... he used to drive past Gosh's paddock and see the Demons training. Yeah. And apparently his favourite thing was to wind in the window and hurl abuse as he drove past.
So he was sledging even when he was...
sledged on his way to Glenferrie.
I like his commitment to the craft of sledging.
Oh, he's a hard nut, Lewis.
Oh, well, yeah.
I remember seeing Hawthorn smash Melbourne years ago at the G. When him and was it Sewell, Brad Sewell, playing in the sand, they both just looked so much harder and tougher than any of the Melbourne midfielders, and they were, and they were pretty good on the gob too.
They never shut up. So
trade news.
So Rowan and Parker probably the same, but Rowan and
Parker won't. If you're Sydney, why would you let Luke Parker go?
Well, they've said no, they're not letting him go.
He's a star, Luke Parker.
Tom Lynch it's been announced almost certain to go to Richmond.
Yeah, but this is as certain as Buddy to GWS a few years ago. I'm hoping there's a sting in
the
tail. And
if he ends up in Sydney?
I hope somehow he stays at Gold Coast.
The Gold Coast... he's restricted, isn't he? So they got the option to
match
it or force a trade.
Yeah.
Or they force it a bit. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Jared Pollock is almost certainly going to North Melbourne. I don't mind that for North.
Bit more
he's
not a bad player, Polly. He's that outside runner they need.
Yeah. Mitch McGovern's likely to Carlton. How bad was the pre-season camp if you're willing to go to Carlton? Because that's like the pre-season camp lasting a whole season. I don't get that at all, you know.
Choose a cave in Thailand over.
Still going on the talk about the pre-season camp. Yeah. I know I've met people who were in real concentration camps that have gone on about it less.
I'm a bit disappointed with these trade. Yeah, there's nothing really magical.
Lockie Neal to Brisbane. You got to say Lockie Neal to Brisbane is looking quite likely. That's amazing to me. Like Ross's rebuild is not looking.
Freo,
to lose Neal, like terrible. Like
I was talking to somebody the other day. We were talking about what's going on at Freo, and this is a bloke who spends a fair bit of time over in Perth. He reckons one of the things he's heard is that Nat Fyfe is not that happy with himself that he signed the big long-term deal. If he hadn't signed the massive deal with Freo last year, he'd have been out of the joint as well.
Right.
I reckon they're not a happy camp over there.
Because when I was in Perth, I did a show there, and I asked who's the Freo supporters, and it was about half the room, so there's about 400 people there, so about 200 people. I said, who's happy with Ross Lyon?
All the West Coast fans said yes.
All the West Coast, yeah. No, all the Freo, there wasn't a single one that was like, I said, are you over him? They're like, yep. Yeah. So there wasn't any love for Ross in the room.
But I mean, Lockie Neal's been their best player this year and probably last year as well. They just can't afford to let him go.
And up at Brisbane, he'll fit in beautifully up there.
They'll be a good side, Brisbane, next year.
They're going well. And then Darcy Moore, it looks almost certain he's going to leave Collingwood.
And is he just going to commit full time to the injury list?
You've got to ask Darcy Moore, why does he want out of Collingwood? And it can't be lack of opportunity, because whenever he's fit, they play him, and he's had quite a few injuries. But
I think
there's always these players that just are out. They're gone, and nobody seems to care.
Something must not be working for him there. Though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And something's going on.
Maybe the wellness team at Collingwood, he thinks having an actual medical team might help him.
The naturopath isn't doing it for him.
I mean, you look at Hawthorn have had terrific success managing, some of the injured players that have come to their club, So, Jaeger O'Meara being the clear example.
Yeah.
So if you're a player that is pretty injury prone, looking for a club you think might have a better chance of actually managing your injuries and getting them right.
So he's going to play for Epworth?
Just don't go to the Crows. Whatever you do.
Well, you go to the Swans. Apparently you don't have to train. So.
Angus McCallum wrote, is it just me, or is Terry Wallace thinking the Hanbury trade is terrible for the Saints, making others think it will be the greatest trade ever? That is one of the ones where you start to just pull your punches on bagging the Saints too much over
the
that.
Big rumours, though. Where are the outrageous ones?
Well, Tom Leinster Richmond's a pretty big story.
But it's locked in. I want the rumours. I want unsubstantiated. Tex Walker's going to Port. There, I've said it.
They're trying to get Jesse Hogan
to Freo.
There we go. That's a fun one.
Jesse Hogan to Freo for picks 4 and 5.
See, this is fun.
I'll take that.
Yeah, he said Jesse, I feel, is getting a lot of heat for... He's kicked almost 50 goals this season.
His first half a dozen games, and he was playing.
And I think
he
was injured towards a lot of it.
He was fantastic.
And I think he was injured a lot towards the end.
And the reason I don't want Jesse Hogan traded to Freo, even as I facetiously said, for 4 and 5 at all, is that, and they're already saying, is there room in the forward line at Melbourne for Hogan, Wiedemann and McDonald? And I would say, well, yeah, there is, because more often than not, one of those three may not be available. Yeah. And when's the time you go, geez, wish we still had Jesse Hogan here.
And also, Jesse can play up the ground. His tank is great, and, Wiedemann...
And isn't it nice to have a Melbourne supporter say his tank is great, and it means his actual...
He's not tanking. Hawthorn Melbourne. Now, do we actually think there's any chance that they can... that, Melbourne are the favourites, everyone says?
Well, yeah, you can see why Melbourne are the favourites, but not as strong as they are at the moment. And look, I hope Melbourne will win. I won't even say I think they will, but I hope they do.
Well,
But I
Hawthorn
have
smashed
no idea.
them in the last time they met. No,
And
no,
they-
I'm saying a lot's
and
changed. but-
Hawthorn, yeah, they got beaten by Richmond, who, a very good side. But, you never write Hawthorn off, I reckon.
No.
Like Gunston was hopeless last week, and Bruce and Smith were all ordinary. They won't be 2 weeks in a row, those blokes.
Melbourne can't get away with... If they play with the intensity again, I think they'll be right, but they can't get away with missing the shots in the way the non-converting that they did. Because that was the game last year where they came out and smashed Hawthorn for a quarter.
Yeah.
Like, really smashed them. It looked like it was all over. And then proceeded to not score a goal for the next 3 quarters, which is not good. That is, I'm no expert, but statistically...
Whoa.
Not scoring from
Not
three...
scoring.
Can we check with Swamp Thing? Is he around?
It's not scoring for 3 quarters. It rarely nets you a win.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact figures in front of me.
Huge.
Collingwood Giants.
Oh, really? Is that all you're going to say? You got nothing else?
I got nothing
You're
else.
just
I'm
panicked
too
too
nervous.
time?
I've been
I
panicked.
got nothing.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's adorable. But, we all want you to win.
Well, I will say
Fairy
this game has torn private schools apart
Yeah.
across Melbourne.
Well, it's just old money and slightly older money.
Yeah, that's right. We're all in panic. Like, people aren't speaking to each other. It's horrible. Can't wait till school pickup's been a nightmare.
Apparently it's Scotch this week and Melbourne Grammar. It's just been
Separate
on
lunchtimes.
the bus coming home.
I mean, separate,
that 86 tram.
But the 86 tram doesn't go anywhere near. It goes north.
No, the 86 is the one that goes out to Northcote, isn't
Is that
it?
the one that goes?
That's Smith Street and High Street and then to Bundura.
Is it the 109?
109?
Could be the 109.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of map 64 from the old Melways. I think.
You still give Melways references. Are you on the red maps? Collingwood Giants.
I actually saw. I was driving to Sydney last year, and sometimes you pull in to one of those like old servos, like in not the big ones that have the McDonald's and everything.
Yeah.
Just an old servo in one of the little towns just outside of Yass.
Yeah.
And there was a bloke. He had a pile of Melways there that you could buy.
You could have.
Yeah.
Do you know where?
That's $39.95.
When Melways, the street directories from anyone doesn't know, which is anyone under 25 maybe or something, they used to be the most shoplifted thing in any store they were in. People just
that and the
stole
Chopper
them.
Read books.
Collingwood Giants. This is the Collingwood.
What do you
versus
reckon about this one?
24 million. See, I would normally say the Giants, especially as how they played last week in Sydney, although Sydney were horrendous. But the Giants' record on the G is horrendous. I think they've only won in their whole history like 2 or 3 times there.
But one of the times was against Collingwood earlier this year.
Yeah, but that was one of their. I think that was their breakthrough win potentially. So
And Collingwood have been good this year. I mean, once they came good early in the season, they haven't put much of a foot wrong, Collingwood.
No.
And it's hard to see them going out in straight sets.
It would be horrible for Bucks.
Yeah.
I really, you. Oh, God, how weird is it? I want Collingwood to win. Oh, that's
well, Collingwood just even being in the finals though is amazing considering the injuries they've had and where we all thought they'd be at the start of this year. So it's weird. I think the Giants will win, but I'm not 100% sure on that because of Collingwood's record on the G. I think they play the G a lot better than.
I actually reckon it's going to be a cracking game. I reckon this could be the close one. I reckon Melbourne Hawthorn. I don't know which team, but it'll be a 5 or 6 goaler. Could be either way.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I reckon Collingwood and Giants, this will be still alive in the 30-minute mark.
Giants have had ability in finals to totally bottle it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the only one they've really stuffed up was against the Tigers last year in the prelim. I rewatched that recently.
Because it was a cracking game against you guys, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was only 5 points.
Yeah.
And then against the Tigers, like they were in it until the third quarter where they just stopped kicking it accurately.
Yeah.
And the Tigers just got in their head with the pressure. So that's really the only time they've totally bottled it.
They totally stuffed it. Listeners' questions. Matthew Hamilton wrote in, who will be the Prime Minister at the grand final?
Well, it's a big announcement here at the Variety Hour, but we can announce that Sergio Paradise will be our leader.
Well, I think anyone who wants it...
I'll be happy to be booed at the grand final.
I can say confidently that if you became Prime Minister, you would easily be the best Prime Minister of the last 10 years. Easily.
I tell you what.
You would certainly be the most popular.
In all seriousness, will Scott Morrison even be there at the AFL ground.
there's a
He
big
could not care less.
He's been pretending to go for certain clubs.
Yeah.
He's been flip-flopping on that. Because he said he was a Dogs fan in like 2010.
Did he?
Really? And now he's
Western
a Sharks
Bulldogs.
fan.
No, as in Western Bulldogs. He was grew up in a rugby house. There's actually Tim Watts, member for Jellybrand, has been tweeting a lot about all the different times he's pretended to go for different sporting
But Tim
clubs.
Watts changed teams.
He did. He was a Lions. Now he's a passionate Bulldog, and
So-
what a great bloke.
Yeah.
Harry Gasper.
No wonder people hate politicians.
Harry Gasper wrote in, am I alone in being super excited for the international rules?
And yes, Harry,
Yes.
you
Yeah,
are.
Harry, answer to that.
And
quick.
not only alone in that, I assume you're alone in a lot of things.
And I also assume, I even think Harry is not actually excited. He's just asking that for nonsense.
No, I got one Irish mate who lives out here, and he loves AFL, and he really gets into international.
He's like the
rules.
Israel Folau guy. The AFL is spending all this money for one guy.
So, can we assume from that, and I didn't even know, is there an international rules?
I think there is a series,
This
but I
year?
don't know anything. I've paid no attention to it.
Yeah.
Didn't I have one at the end of last season?
Yeah, don't they flip it though? So this one will be in Ireland.
But do they do it every year? I thought it was
I
every
think they
2
do it
years.
every year, but 1 year here, 1 year there.
Shows how
but
much
to
we
be
know
honest,
about it.
I'm quite happy to profess my ignorance. I don't even watch
As, lo-
it
as
when
long
it's
as it doesn't clash with AFLX, I don't really
You
care.
going back to back?
Yeah.
Andrew Burgess wrote in, will the new Predator movie be any good?
Who's in it? I've only just seen
I don't know who's in it. I've
I've seen the
some
preview.
ads.
Okay.
Yeah. It
There's a
looks
guy
all right.
from Narcos, one of the guys who was in the first series of Narcos. This is the only one I really recognise
Right.
from memory.
I'm looking it up on IMDb. I'll tell you. I can judge a film by its
It
cover.
won't be good.
Yeah, but although most of the whole Predator series, it seems to have got away with it each time because every time they bring out a new one, there's another advance in computer animation, and
Yeah.
it looks a bit better. That's not to say the scripts
And
gonna
the
be
scripts
any good.
get worse.
Yeah, the scripts get worse, but the animation gets
Do you
better.
know what this is my mate Jacques Barrett's joke, but he said, do you know what the original Predator is? It's actually a documentary about the only time it's acceptable to do blackface. Hey, it's got Keegan Key in it, Olivia Munn. They're all right. Directed by Shane Black, who I've
Has it got a star rating yet on?
yeah,
IMDb?
it's not huge. The guy who directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, he
Yeah,
wrote
Shane
Kiss Kiss
Black.
Bang Bang.
He's-
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah,
And he also wrote the original Predator. Yeah, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
I've called it.
if you're into that kind of thing.
Justin Gunn wrote in, how much deeper would the ocean be without sponges?
I don't know, Justin. Get out of the water and I'll tell you.
That's a good question.
Well, actually, that's the way to fix this sea
Climate
level
change.
rising. Just throw in a few chucks.
A few more sponges, a few
Yeah, President
Oh.
man-made
of Nauru.
sponges, rather than natural sponges.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. On that note, now the T-shirt, I
That's
reckon
our-
we give
our
it
shock
to Matt Cerrone, or his was
this,
Mark
like,
Knight's
tank horse?
Serena comic really more offensive than his Hawthorn
Oh, okay,
three-peat
sure.
poster.
Yeah.
Well done.
I
And,
thought everyone who got mentioned got a T-shirt. Is that not how you do it
no,
anymore?
I can't do it.
Can't
It
afford
cost
that
me a
many
fortune.
T-shirts.
I've got to send them all out. I'm backlogged by about 20 people, and they're all starting to pay for my blood.
You
quite
say
rightly.
you. I know. I found out the other night when I was at the footy who actually does that.
Oh, this is true. My logistics arm. On that note, we will see you next week.
Next week, preliminary final week.
Oh, exciting.